Thank you very much. Thank you for a very warm welcome, and especially from one young lady up here. But Attorney General Smith, distinguished members of the Congress, and honored guests, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the White House. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to help launch the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and to tell you that the safety and protection of our children is a top priority on the national agenda. All Americans, and especially our youth, should have the right and the opportunity to walk our streets, to play and to grow and to live their lives without being at risk. Sadly, our children are at risk.
I deserve to have peace in my life. I mean, I have said a lot of time that I would just allow somebody just to walk in my shoes for one day and know what it's like to not know whatever happened to your 8-year-old daughter. It's heartbreaking.
But make no mistake, the strongest guardian against crime, and particularly crime against children, is we the people. Helen Cromer wrote, "One man awake can waken another. The second can awaken his next door brother. The three awake can rouse the town by turning the whole place upside down. And the many awake make such a fuss, they finally awaken the rest of us."
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported that 8 million children around the world will go missing every year. The U.S. tops the list with a staggering 460,000 cases. 1 in every 10,000 of those children will be found deceased. Did Cherrie Mahan become the one child in 10,000, or is she still alive? Was she taken at such a young age that she simply forgot her grieving family? Janice McKinney said it was like the earth opened up and her daughter fell in it. The missing 8-year-old has captured the hearts and interest of so many across the U.S. since her abduction in 1985. Cherrie became the first child to appear on postcards distributed nationwide with the headline, "Have You Seen Me?" It was President Reagan's initiative that helped launch and support many of these campaigns, such as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, not only to curb child abductions, but to help bring the children home. In 1982, Reagan signed a bill called the Missing Children's Act to reassure parents that every effort would be made to find, or in many tragic cases, identify their children. May 25, 2025 will mark the 42nd anniversary of National Missing Children's Day. The vanishing of 8-year-old Cherrie Mahan on February 22, 1985 has continued to mystify us for over 40 years. The motive for the crime was never really clear. Theories ranged from a sex trafficking ring, black market adoption, revenge, or a serial killer. Before we take an in-depth look into the case, let's examine the area of Winfield Township in Butler County, Pennsylvania, where Cherrie's abduction occurred. Pay attention to how rural the landscape is, and bear in mind that cell phones and GPS were still in their infancy in 1985. And without this navigation system, think how easily you could get lost in this web of winding roads. You can't help to get the feeling that the perpetrator of this crime is most likely a local who knows every nook and cranny of this borough. He is probably well aware that the response time for a search is going to be slower than in a more suburban area. The question then becomes, was Cherrie targeted, or did her abductor just seize upon the perfect opportunity to snatch a child walking home alone? To see if we can answer some of these questions, we'll now delve into the events surrounding Cherrie's disappearance. On February 22nd, as school let out and Cherrie and the other children boarded the bus home, witnesses, including the children on the bus, claimed to have seen a van and a small blue sedan following closely behind the bus. The van was a 1970s-era Dodge, possibly a 1976 model. It was described as blue or bluish-green in color and had a customized painted scene on its side of snow-capped mountains with a skier. The skier was dressed in red and yellow clothing and was skiing down the mountain. There were no other details given about the sedan traveling behind the van or a description of the drivers. At 4:10 p.m., Cherrie and 3 other children were dropped off at their bus stop near their homes. Parents were usually parked along the road waiting to pick up their children and take them the rest of the way home. This would have also included Cherrie's mother, Janice. But that day was different. The weather was unusually mild, so Janice decided to let her daughter walk home alone. This was the first time she had been allowed to do so. From the point of the bus stop to the family's driveway, the distance was about 25 yards. Once the 4 children got off the bus, neighbor Debbie Burke sat in her car watching them laugh and talk, as children often do after a long day at school. Burke was there to pick up her son and the other 2 kids. She gave this statement to investigators. The kids played for a while. I made sure that Cherrie had walked past the car. Then I drove away. I caught a glimpse of the blue van in my mirror. It was right behind me. My son saw the van too. As the school bus and Burke drove away, they did not see Cherrie get into the van. Authorities have always made it clear that there was no proof that the van was implicated in the crime. They were only seeking to talk to the driver for purposes of locating Cherrie Mahan. Janice and Cherrie's stepfather, Leroy McKinney, heard the school bus stop from their mobile home that sat 50 yards up on a hill on Corn Planter Road. After 10 minutes went by and they didn't see Cherrie making her way up the winding driveway, they went to check on her. They didn't see her anywhere, and that is when the fear and panic set in. There were no small footprints in the snow that Cherrie would have left behind, but they did see a set of tire impressions in the driveway soil. Authorities were contacted immediately, and a search for the 8-year-old got underway shortly thereafter. The first step in trying to locate Cherrie was to send out a description to all surrounding officials. Next came the hard part of questioning the parents. It's never an easy task, but investigators must first eliminate them as suspects. The McKinneys sat down with investigators in the kitchen of their home. They were devastated. They didn't understand what was happening. Why would anyone want to take their little girl? As questions were being asked and statements were being written down, investigators would occasionally glance over at a valentine drawn out in crayon hanging on the refrigerator door. No training can ever prepare officers enough to deal with the raw emotions of fear and heartache of parents of missing children. Janet and Leroy stated that they didn't know of anyone who would want to harm their daughter. Janice said that Cherrie had never been away from her longer than a day since the day she was born. Leroy was a Vietnam vet and had seen his share of tragedy, but it was nothing compared to this kind of pain. He had raised Cherrie as if she were his own, and had moved the family to the mobile home up on the hill because of the beautiful wooded lot. Leroy told investigators it seemed like a great place to raise kids. Janice wept as she described her daughter. She said Cherrie was a little devil, super friendly towards everyone, the kind of child that would have trusted a familiar face and would have gotten into a car without too much persuasion. Janice said the closeness between her and her daughter went beyond what most would consider normal. She had Cherrie when she was just 16 years old, and the two had always been inseparable. Even though it was easy to see that the parents had nothing to do with the abduction, they both agreed to take a lie detector test and passed with flying colors. As police were interviewing over 1,600 people, a ground search got underway. Over 250 volunteers joined in the effort to find the child. Bloodhounds were taken to the scene where witnesses last saw Cherrie as she made her way home, but they were unable to pick up her scent beyond that point. Every available member of law enforcement, including the FBI, canvassed every inch of the surrounding area in an effort to find the small third grader that seemed to have vanished into thin air. Trying to find the van was proving to be just as difficult. Investigators checked the registration of more than 500 similar vans without any success. In the end, they determined that if it was involved in the abduction, it was probably repainted. Authorities, however, were determined to do all they could to bring Cherrie home. Thousands of flyers were sent out with Cherrie's picture and a drawing of the van. Neighbors and local businesses raised over $40,000 in reward money for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Cherrie's abductor. Sadly, everyone's efforts fell flat. Not one viable lead ever came in. And like so many cases of the missing, Cherrie's case went cold just 9 months later. The only push to keep her story in the public eye came from two separate sources. One was local groups devoted to combating child abductions, and the other was a TV series created to draw attention to the epidemic of missing children. A dramatization of Cherrie's abduction was filmed as part of a series used to educate the public on keeping their children safe. Janice and Leroy also knew it was time for them to get back to something that resembled their daily routine before this terrible tragedy left their lives in tatters. So much had been carefully kept in place in case Cherrie miraculously appeared back in their home. Her bedroom was the same as the day she left it. The only thing different was the stack of unopened Christmas and birthday gifts on the bed. Janice reluctantly returned to her job at a nursing home. You see, Janice feared that if she left the house, she might miss a call from Cherrie. What if somehow her daughter were still alive and she was able to get to a phone and call her for help? The thought of that missed call tortured Janice, so she purchased an answering machine and recorded the following message to her daughter. Cherrie, I love you. Read me the phone number off the phone or call the operator and ask her to get the National Center for Missing Children in Washington. They'll help bring you home. Janice has waited 40 years for that call that never came. While the Pennsylvania State Police continue to pore over the several boxes of Cherrie's case files, hoping to come across a clue that may have been overlooked. Here are just a few notes on the investigation that have been recorded over the decades. Police have theorized that Cherrie may have been a victim of a serial kidnapping. Police in California and Texas have reported similar cases of children being abducted by someone driving a blue van. No link to any of these cases have yet to materialize. Some of those investigating Cherrie's disappearance believe she knew her abductor or abductors, although no family members have ever surfaced as persons of interest. In January of 2011, police received a tip from a credible source with information crucial to the investigation. Investigators declined to share details as the investigation is ongoing. However, they now believe that Cherrie is deceased. When Janice was 15, she was raped, and this is how Cherrie was conceived. No one believed Janice's allegations at the time, and no charges were ever filed. The biological father never acknowledged Cherrie or tried to gain custody. Janice believes to this day that the person who abducted her daughter is somehow associated with this man. Investigators have questioned the biological father and determined that he is not a suspect. In March of 2025, a new tip came in, and the interest in the case is now shifted to a 26-acre property across from where Cherrie's grandparents lived. The property was never searched during the original investigation, and the tip focused on a 2 to 3 acre section that could hold the key to solving the crime. The property owners are cooperating and would like to help find Cherrie. Police have stated that they can't invest resources in the search until they get harder evidence. So Janice has now turned to private investigator Steve Ridge for help. Ridge believes that Cherrie's blue book bag may have been submerged in a pond near that location. A reward for $100,000 has been offered for information leading to the discovery of Cherrie.
I never wish this upon anybody to have to deal with this. 40 years of not knowing is a killer. Not knowing is horrible. It's excruciating. Every single day I get killed a little bit more than not knowing. I've gotten to the point in my life where I physically, mentally just cannot do this anymore. I'd be happy with a bag of bones because this is just something that people don't understand how hard this is.
Janice Mahan McKinney has been searching for her daughter for 4 decades. If you can help her find Cherrie, or if you have any information that could lead law enforcement to solving this cold case, please contact the Pennsylvania State Police at 724-284-8100. Are you obsessed with true crime content? Subscribe now and join our growing community as we analyze and discuss the details of some truly baffling cold cases. Browse our growing library of cold case investigations and immerse yourself in the mysteries that keep us up at night. Subscribe and join the EOJ community today. All it takes is a click.